and good morning, everyone. Thank you again for joining us this Sunday morning, for joining Reverend Irma and myself, Jean Kennedy, as we go through another lesson in this thing called You. And we're going to be basically finishing up this book this week. And so prayerfully, everyone has a great understanding or a better understanding of the teachings of Ernest Holmes. Today's broadcast is sponsored by the Center for Spiritual Enrichment as a loving, living memorial to its founder, Reverend Sue Constantinidis. Reverend Irma?
Good morning, Jean, and how are you?
I'm too wonderful this morning.
That's great, and I see that Joseph is here with us. He's been away for a couple weeks, and we're happy to have him back as our splendid engineer. And we're going to step into a lot of different things this morning, but first, we too, Jean and I, want to wish birthday blessings and abundant good wishes to our great nation. A nation that has always been great, in my opinion. So we just simply know that we live in a state of freedom. We live in a state of spiritual freedom. Actually, as I was taught in school, this nation was founded on the idea of having religious freedom. And that's what we have here, is religious freedom. Many different spiritual traditions find their home here, and we are allowed to worship the God of our understanding in a space of truth and liberty. I would also like to acknowledge that we're going to continue to talk about this thing called You this morning, because you are a splendid, wonderful idea in the mind of God, and you are expressing, doing God's work here in this expression of life. And as we understand and step into our spiritual magnificence, do you know how magnificent you really are? You are. And so we want to have you to understand that, because we're created in love, created out of love itself. And we'll be talking a little bit more about love, how you can love yourself, understand yourself, because you have to love yourself first before you can love anyone else. And so we invite you to be with this particular principle, with this idea today. And so we're going to invite Jean right now to anchor us in prayer with a wonderful evocation. And when she's complete, we're going to have a wonderful patriotic song by the Mormon Tabernacle Choir as they let us know that this is our country. Okay, Jean?
Today we recognize and accept for each one of us that God is love, that love is reflected onto and into each of us. We have come together in love, seeking the true path of our beliefs and recognize our spiritual home. We're guided by divine wisdom in our lessons today, so everyone listening will benefit and feel their magnificence with the oneness that we call God. We know the spiritual truth of perfection for ourselves, our engineer, our listeners, our local community, and the world. We know and accept that our words and thoughts have power, and we recognize that power as the God within us. We declare these words and actions to be the truth of spiritual perfection for each one of us, and so it is.
And so it perfectly is. wonderful song for us to clearly understand that this is our country. We stand on a country that is truly abundant, a country that has prosperity, and a country that has a very broad spiritual base. And as we were saying earlier, so many different faith traditions have found their home here. And so we invite you to anchor yourself in this idea of oneness. For truly, we are all one, and we are one because we are love. And we continue an exploration, our closing exploration of this book, This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes, as he talks about love and the idea that we live in love, that we are pure love itself. Love itself finds itself in our families a lot of times. And so what is it that you're doing this coming Wednesday on the 4th of July? Are you with family, or do you have a social network that you may call your family outside of your biological family? What are you doing? Are you barbecuing? Just exactly what are you doing? Whatever it is, we get together, with family out of this idea of love. And we love each other just simply because we can. And it is somewhat of a moral obligation to love everyone unconditionally. Unconditional love means that you're loving the person always, not necessarily loving the things that they do. I can remember when I was a teenager, my mother says, I don't like what you're doing, but I love you anyway. I bet many of you have had that experience. And so we want you to know that you are anchored in love. You're anchored in the divine. So as we want to know that we live in love, we want to have the opportunity to evaluate what love means to you. What does love mean to each one of us as an individual? There are 3 definitions of love. One is called eros love. The other is philos. And the third one is agape love. Eros love means that it is based on strong feelings toward another, and it usually occurs in the first stages of a man-to-woman relationship, and it's a romantic relationship. It's a sexual relationship. And then, Jean, we have philos love. What does that mean to you, philos love?
The philos love is the love between 2 people. It would be friendship between 2 people.
Okay. Friendship between 2 people, and it's kind of the thing that starts out by being friends before you actually become partners and move on to the eros love that we were talking about earlier. They're relationships that last more than long term. They just kind of last forever. I have a good friend of mine who I've known since I was probably 7 years old. And the idea here is that we have this idea of philos love just simply because we are friends and have always been friends. And it seems like even though we may not see each other for a year or so, we can pick up where we left off the conversation the last time. And to me, that's a good example of philos love, just having that friendship. And then we have this marvelous thing called agape love. And as spiritual beings, this is what we all want to indulge in, this idea of agape love. And Jean, what would that represent to you?
Well, that's unconditional love.
Unconditional, okay.
Unconditional love.
All right. And it is above philos love and eros love. It is a love that is selfless, where a person gives out love to another person, even if this act does not benefit him in any way. Whether the love given is returned or not, the person continues to love, even without self-benefit. So this idea of agape love is represented actually when we set up food banks and we feed the homeless or the people that need sustenance. We help them in some way or another. We set up the food bank, we feed them. We have what can be called soup kitchens, or someone can set up a boys and girls club just so that teenagers and young adults have a place to go and to be with like-minded individuals. And you set up this club with no expectation of real return except for maybe some good moral behavior within the confines of the club itself. So this is what we look for. Yes, Joseph? Yes. That's what we look for. And so there are the three kinds of love. We have eros love, we have philos love, and we have agape love. And then Ernest Holmes states in this thing called You that love is the fulfillment of the law, and that you can make the best use of the law of your life when it is motivated by love itself. And so we always want to look for the best in each other because we live and move and have our being from a point of love. We are able not to focus on the negative things that people may do. We don't have to put a lot of energy or focus on them, but we want to love them anyway. But you are permitted to dislike the activity. And this is what I was saying about parents who will tell you, I love you, but I really don't like what you're doing right now, so shape up. And we want to always love unconditionally. We don't put conditions on love. I'll love you if. That doesn't make sense. Because if there's a condition on it, then it's not real love. So we want to know that we love unconditionally. And this is what, yes, Jean.
There's something that comes up a lot in the teachings of the religious science, that they say, well, if this is true, this love, okay, then how can we have bad things happen?
And that happens because life is just simply in session. And bad things happen not to test our faith or not to just test us at all, but just because this is the cycle of life itself. And that goes on, and that there is this idea of love. And we love ourselves through what appears to be a negative experience, and we are stronger because of it.
And I think also we need to include that, say you're on a jury, and they say no one should judge anybody. I might be getting a little ahead of you. But the thing that Reverend Sue used to teach all the time is that, yes, we love everyone. Even if we had to judge that person, we're not judging the spiritual person. We're judging the behavior.
That is it. That's all we're doing is judging the behavior. And again, that gets back to agape love.
Exactly.
It gets back to this idea that it's unconditional, but the behavior itself has a consequence. And that gets back to what we sometimes call the law of cause and effect, or many of you have heard the word karma.
Very
and
much
that's what happens there. And Jesus himself taught us this. There were a group of Pharisees that brought a woman to him who had been caught in adultery. And the law said that she should be stoned. But Jesus didn't condemn her. Instead, he said, "Those of you without sin, go ahead and you throw the first stone." And they all turned around and walked away. You see, so we have to be very careful of how we judge people. And the experience of judgment is not always about loving, but it is about sometimes condemning the behavior. And we have to be careful about that, because when we condemn behavior, we want to be sure that we haven't necessarily indulged in that kind of behavior ourselves and come up short. Now, there's a writer, Alexandra Stoddard. Jean, would you read this quote that she has given to us this morning?
Love is a wondrous miracle. It has power to heal and to overcome pain, to transform our struggles into opportunities for joy and a deeper appreciation of life. The first step we take in our miraculous journey toward greater love is to open the wellspring of love within ourselves. Live in love is an attitude and a way. It requires living up to our fullest possibilities and giving birth to our higher power.
All right. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So we want to open ourselves up, she says, to the wellspring of love that is within ourselves. Do you know how deeply that you can love? It is very difficult to unlove when you are so full of love yourself. The potential for love is innate within each one of us, and it bubbles over when we see something that gives us joy, something that gives us a lot of pleasure. So we have within us a wellspring of love just waiting to be loosened out into society and into the world itself, so that you know that you are a magnificent being because you're so full of love and you're ready, willing, capable to share it. The law of attraction means that we're living in a love vibration. Not only is this the law of attraction, it is the law of life. The law of attraction is the law of life. If we want good to manifest for us, we must commit ourselves to feeling good, to being good, and to doing good. You see, good is simply God expressing through us. When we commit to accept the good of life, we are loving ourselves. Now, some people will say to you, okay, so you're so in love with yourself and you're so selfish by being that way and you're kind of a narcissistic individual. But the idea is that we simply have to love ourselves before we can love anybody else. And Jean, did you have something to say about that? Loving yourself so much?
I don't think it's a matter of being narcissistic about it.
Okay.
Because I think it is loving the God presence within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I can accept that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is how I believe.
Okay. But you know what makes us think in terms of narcissism is the fact that we are so in love with ourselves that we tune everybody else out and we tune everybody's opinions out, and you become overly self-important when that's really not the intent here.
Not at all.
Not at all. That is not the intent. So we want to continue to live in the frequency of a high love vibration that lifts us to the higher state of consciousness and frees us of the thoughts, the feelings, and actions that minimize and victimize us. Neurotic fears, guilt, judgment, greed, envy, arrogance, and the ego's stubborn need to be right are simply dissolved into native nothingness of a low or a no love vibration. So we want to let go of these negative ideas. And just as what we said, we want to let go of guilt. We want to let go of judgment. We want to not be greedy. We don't necessarily want to envy anyone. We want to be arrogant. We don't want to be arrogant in our approach to life. And the ego sometimes wants to be right all the time, but we want to send it back to its native no-thingness and let it know that it has no vibration, no love vibration, but that love is in existence everywhere around us. It says in biblical scripture, for God so loved the world. The idea is that the Christ consciousness was presented to us at this state of being. The scripture says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. But understand that when the Son came, it was a consciousness. It was an idea of understanding who you are in this divine scheme of things. For who you are is a wonderful child of the universe, and what you are, simply put, is God expressing itself as a magnificent you. You are magnificent. You are an expression of God. Jean, what does it mean when it says that we live in the love vibration? We vibrate love, and it's an energy that kind of oozes from us, and people can tell when we're happy and when we're in love with some idea or some person. What does that mean?
I think that's when we understand our soul. Okay, our soul understands, and it accepts the vibration of love, and it operates. It recognizes life unfolding in the divine plan.
Okay.
And it's the evolving spirit within the form.
Okay, the evolving spirit within
the evolving spirit.
Oh, I like that. As it evolves itself. And so it means being mindful of our ego personality as we relate to people and circumstances from a position of the high watch. And we'll talk about the high watch in just a minute here. But we're relating to people and circumstances from the high watch of our soul self. Now, what the high watch simply means is that we're watching our thoughts from a position of what Emerson would call lowly listening, being still and letting God speak to us as only God can speak to us, with ideas and events that are presented to us. And our ego easily will move in the direction of the dramas of life. We invest emotional and physical energy in advancing the ego through superiority, through security and status. And our soul self is the wise, detached participant observer. It experiences life but is not consumed by it. It recognizes life as a divine unfolding plan. And again, as Jean says, the evolving a spirit within form. So that means that there is this soul self, there is this physical body that we occupy, but the spirit of the living God is evolving itself in and through us as our individual spirit. The soul self trusts and knows without a doubt that all things work together for good. And Scripture goes on to say, it works together for good for those who love the Lord. And again, loving yourself, loving that presence that is within you, guiding and directing and presenting wisdom to you at all times, if you are open and receptive to this divine and wonderful guidance. When we live in the field of the love vibration, we know that all aspects of life are connected and that we each have the potential and indeed the responsibility to become whole. Now, let's clarify that just a little bit. Connection means that every essence on this planet, whether it is human, whether it is animal, plant, or mineral, is a unique expression of God, and we are all interdependent. Now, interdependent, what in the world does that mean? What do you think, Jean? Interdependent.
That means that we're all created from one, and the presence of that one is within each one of us, and we depend on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it goes back to the does a rock have a soul?
Yes.
Is everything God stuff?
Uh-huh.
But everything is connected.
Everything is connected.
And there is no separation.
And there is no separation. All right, so let's break that interdependence down just a little bit. We have animal and plant. Now, as humans, we eat meat. Some of us do. A lot of us don't, and that's okay, whatever it looks like for you. But we also eat plants, so we're dependent on plants to nurture us and to sustain us and to allow the physical body to continue to develop. To me, that's a good idea of interdependence, because we eat the plants and they provide us with nourishment, and they don't give up because they make seeds to continue to feed this human species. And so we want to clearly understand that there is no separation. We are all cells of the living God, and what affects one affects us all. Wholeness, on the other hand, means being complete as an individual and in harmony and balance at all levels of our being, body, mind, and spirit. So to be whole means to gather up and heal or fix our fragmented pieces, which are the pieces of ourselves that are disconnected from spirit. Our brokenness is often due to feelings of unworthiness and pain from the past, where there is only regret, shame, and blame. We can't move forward at all if we're living in the past, bringing up old situations and not letting them go because they just seem to give you a certain measure of comfort to hang on to that, but then you're not able to move forward and accept your greater good. There is so much good for you to receive. Brokenness also comes from being uninformed. suggesting that you are worthless and will never amount to anything. And I know that you've heard of people who have been told that they're worthless. You'll never amount to anything. They even bring up the sins of the father. They'll say your daddy was nothing, your mother was just okay, but you will never amount to anything. And all of that is so untrue. You amount to whatever it is that you set as a goal for yourself. And through the process of listening to Spirit, you are able to live, move, and have your being in Spirit and achieve what it is that you desire. So you are living in the love vibration, and it keeps us focused on the present moment, connected and at one with ourselves and all there is, and moving in the direction of positivity and joy. What a powerful statement, that we can be at one with ourselves and every other creature or thing that there is in the known universe. And we always want to move in the direction of positivity and joy. So on that note, we're going to pause for just a moment and acknowledge the station that is allowing us to present these wonderful ideas to you, and that is KCAA in Loma Linda.
KCAA. This is Joe Lyons. Guardian Jet Center honors America now in its 242nd year as the world's leading democracy.
242 years ago, a small group of men changed the course of American history. One of those men was a lawyer from Pennsylvania, George Ross. Active in state affairs, Ross was a popular political figure in his home state. Representing Pennsylvania at the First Continental Congress, he was a loyalist who presented convincing arguments against breaking with the mother country. But in the space of a year, he changed his mind and returned to the Second Congress as a supporter of independence. He became a judge in Pennsylvania, where he presided over one of the most important cases involving states' rights and the powers of the new federal government. On Independence Day 2018, we remember George Ross of Pennsylvania, who signed the Declaration of Independence and became a founder of our American Republic.
Today, Guardian Jet Center salutes the American way of life. Guardian, the most advanced fixed-base operator of the Ontario International Airport, redefines the expectations of the general aviation business traveler, one client at a time. Single-engine or cabin-class aircraft give Guardian the opportunity to enhance the customer experience. Happy birthday, America, from Guardian Jet Center, the gateway to Southern California.
Yard House Restaurant takes this special time to salute the Temecula men and women in uniform who've answered the call for our freedoms. Let's give them the hero's welcome they deserve, as they fought hard to restore peace around the world. American troops are our angels of protection, so stand up and salute them proudly. That's from Yard House Restaurant. So for lunch and dinner, take the family to Yard House Restaurant at 40770 Winchester Road. They have so many mouth-watering dishes, you'll find it hard to make up your mind. Call 951-296-3116. 951-296-3116. News, weather, and talk on KCAA 102.3 FM, broadcasting to the Moreno Valley, Corona, and Riverside.
Okay, now Jean, what we find is in 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, the 4th through the 8th verse, that there is a perfect description for agape love. It says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. And so we find that prayer and meditation and inspirational readings and service to others are all excellent ways to attract connection, wholeness, and love. According to Unity teacher Shirley Marshall, Other strategies to living in the light of the love vibration would include seeking the good in everyone and everything. Do you find that it may be good to that it may be difficult to seek the good in everyone all the time?
It's very difficult.
Yeah, it is. But there is good. There is good in everyone. We just have to acknowledge it and know that it will come forth at some time or another. And we want to bring trust to adversity. And again, that gets back to seeking sometimes the good in everyone and everything. But we want to trust that the adversarial experience that we are going through at any one given moment is there to strengthen us, and that we will come through it stronger than when all of this stuff, whatever it is, happened, that we will come through the event stronger. And we want to be grateful for all that we have. Sometimes we are not grateful enough. We look at things and say, oh, this old thing, or this is such a little bit, but that's not the point. It is what it is at the moment, and let's give thanks for it so that the love vibration will multiply that you do have. We always want to take the high road in any conflicted situation or relationship. Sometimes that's difficult. To take the high road because you feel like you've been wronged so many times, but there is this idea of the love vibration coming back to you through your experience of taking the high road. And as you do this, you will find yourself more at peace with yourself and loving yourself just a little bit more than before. And Shirley Marshall also says that we want to create a sacred space of peace and beauty in which to renew ourselves. And what does that mean? It just simply means to have your space where you sit down and where you're able to read, where you're able to meditate and be at one with yourself and with spirit at any one given time. I have a colleague who talks about the fact that she usually meditates about 5 o'clock, and even her dog knows that it is meditation time, and often at 5 o'clock beats her to the chair where she sits and meditates. So it's just a matter of understanding our oneness with all that there is. Once again, we're one with all of our snuggly pets, and these pets get to know your habits, and they have a keen sense of time. So often they will, if you set an example, they will meet you at your meditation place and be in meditation with you. So that is what is wonderful. And we want to care for all living things. You see, love is the elixir for joy and the antidote to pain. Love fuels the fire of our passion. Love lifts us from our limitations to our potential. Love transcends time and space. It also transmutes the differences and prejudices. Love heals. Love is the vibration of pure spirit, the song of the universe. Love is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. This is what love is. We also want to learn through self-examination and evaluation what our mental attitude is. And so we want to take this opportunity to really think about what it is that we want to experience in this idea of love based on the concepts that we've been discussing. We have a need oftentimes to love ourselves to love others. We want to love somebody. We don't want to be lonely and feel left out of things. Holmes has some wonderful meditations, and I think Jean is going to read a couple of them to us about this idea of love and what it means to us. Jean?
Today I bestow the essence of love upon everything. Everyone shall be lovely to me. My soul meets the soul. I'm sorry. Today I bestow the essence of love upon everything. Everyone shall be lovely to me. My soul meets the soul of the universe and everyone. Everything is beautiful. Everything is meaningful. This love is a healing power, touching everything into wholeness, healing the wounds of experience with its divine balm. I know that this love essence is the very substance of life, the creative principle back of everything, flowing through my whole being, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. It flows in transcendent loveliness into my world of thought and form, ever renewing, vitalizing, bringing joy, harmony, and blessing to everything and everyone it touches.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. So we want to know that, continuing to know that we are absolutely divine beings. Feel your divinity. Just take a deep breath right now and feel your magnificence. Feel the love energy that you are vibrating from yourself out to your surroundings. That love energy, it is so good. And as you love yourself and everything around you, everything appears to be brighter. It appears to be glowing, because this is the attitude that you have about things around you. It's a love attitude. It's a love energy. And those things respond to you in common, just simply because we are all one. And your energy, your vibration is recognized as one of love and generosity, as one of love and compassion, and as one that can experience peace, unconditional peace, and unconditional love. So the idea is that we want to examine ourselves, that we want to be humble. We want to have a clear-minded assessment of ourselves from a point of pure spiritual awareness. Now, our weekly presentation here is entitled Wake Up Awareness. It means to look at ourselves and question our thoughts and meaning behind them. The question must be asked: are you coming from a position of agape love? Are we looking selfishly without consideration for others? Are you living in the past by accepting limiting beliefs about yourself? And we know that you're not doing that, because we know that that's not really a good idea for your evolving spiritual growth. And so what we find, however, is that self-examination is essential to your spiritual growth. Self-examination is not a form of navel gazing, as we would put. We are not to be self-absorbed, and we are not to look inward to see how we feel about ourselves or how we compare to other people. Instead, we want to look inward to see how well we measure up to the inward desires of the heart. The spiritual life requires frequent self-examination to ensure that we are evolving to our highest human potential. So we want to know, how much time each month do I spend in self-reflection? Am I making progress in my spiritual evolution? That's a question, and only a question that you can answer. Another thing that comes up is we want to find out if we are making excuses for our failures to be more of our authentic self. What are the excuses we make for not being who we are, for not being true to ourselves? And then, are we growing in faithfulness to ourselves, or are we stagnating by being too comfortable in our spiritual life? We can say, oh, I'm a wonderful spiritual being, but if you're not out acting as though you are a spiritual being, expressing peace, expressing joy, love, and compassion, and serving others, then it's all for naught. And what evidence do I find that I am embracing Christ consciousness? Christ consciousness, once again, is that agape love that is pure, that is whole, that is absolutely complete. And it all makes us better. And as the song says, we can become better and better. And we're going to have this presentation of a song right now called Better. And it's by Hezekiah Walker.
Come on, everybody, put your hands together. It's got to get better all over the world. Listen to these words. People come. People come. People go. People go. Your life has been out of control. Out of control. You're confused. But don't worry. Don't worry your soul. It will get better. It's gotta get better. It will get better. It's gonna be better. It will get better. 'Cause God is in control, y'all. Hey. Thank you, Lord. Hey. Find a praise within your heart. Within your heart. Hold it close. Hold it close. Don't ever depart. It gets cold in the night. But you'll be alright. Gonna get better. It's gotta get better. It will get better. Gotta get better. It will get better. 'Cause God is in control. Woo. This is the part I love. I find myself in. I've learned how to be secure, knowing God. You supply all my needs. Work things out. It will get better. Gotta get better. People all over the world. It's gotta get better. Oh, it will get better. I'm talking to some mother. Mother, can you hear me? Talking to some father. It gotta get better. It must be. It's got to be. God promised me. And it will be. God's gonna make it. God's gonna make it. God's got to make it. You gotta make it better. Better. God's gotta make it. God's gotta make it better. Keep on moving. Keep on driving. 'Cause God's gonna make it better. Woo! People in Flint, Michigan, say better. Even in LA, it's gotta get better. What about New Jersey? Gotta get better. I forgot about New York. Yeah. Forgot about Philly. Gotta get better. Gotta get better. Gotta get better. Gotta get better. It's gonna be. God's gonna make it. God's gonna make it better. God's gonna make it. Say better. Say better. Say better. What about Baltimore? What about Ferguson? Even in Chicago, God's gonna make it better. Hey, it will get better. 'Cause God, He's in full control. Oh, thank you, Lord. Hey. Gotta get better.
And it does get better. It gets better each and every day as we acknowledge once again who we are. For who we are children of the universe. And what we do as a child of the universe is simply allow God to do its magnificent work in and through us as pure spirit. We feel that spiritual energy. We feel that love that God is. For God is love, created everything that there is in this universe out of itself. And as that creation comes out of itself, we can only expect to be the love that God is. So we are the love that God is. We are the love that creates joy, that creates this idea of a fabulous life for ourselves. And we can create this life by this idea of lowly listening to the urgings of spirit, listening to the idea that we are individuals and that we have a unique idea and a unique presence in this experience of life, because we are this thing that is called you. We are each ourselves. And so as we acknowledge that we each are ourselves, we know once again that we are children of God, expressing God, doing the work of God here in this expression of life. And so I invite you to take a deep breath and move with us into prayer at this moment. Every day, from dawn to evening tide, God is and always has been. This one life that is God's life is in each and every one of us. It is one with the power of divine peace. Say to yourself, I am the very presence of peace and harmony, so that I project peace from the inside out. I am the very presence of love, and I project love from the inside out. I am clear that peace and love are within. As day follows night, peace and love and harmony filled action flows from my compassionate being. And we allow the light of divine guidance to radiate from us, shining and illumining everything that we do, overshadowing anything that is negative and unlike the presence that we call God. This day, we live in wonder and awe of the blessings bestowed upon this great nation, the United States of America, and we give thanks for it. We give thanks for living in a nation that is free, and particularly free for us to worship the God of our understanding. This is very powerful, and so we give thanks for that. We live in awe and wonder. What an awesome and wonder-filled idea. And so we step into this idea of love as we speak our word right here and right now for people who are experiencing some discomfort in their life right now. And so, Jean, would you declare a word of healing and put healing light on those that have requested healing from us this morning?
Today I know and accept that God's perfect light is shining on Rosalind. There are no challenges in her life, and she exhibits the presence of God within her in everything she does and do. For Pam, we know the truth of perfection for Pam is that she is whole, perfect, and complete, that there is no cancer, that there is only God's radiating love flowing through her. For the people of Hawaii and the people who are affected by the lava flowing like a river through their neighborhoods and their homes, we know that they are safe and that God's love surrounds them. For Sandra, we know that wellness is for her. We know that God shines His love and His light for the wellness and the well-being, and for ease and for comfort. We know and accept for all the New Thought centers of worship and all the houses of worship, that the love of God is flowing through them and through all that worship in those places. And for this, I declare now that this is the truth of being for each one that we spoke our word for today. And so it is.
And so it perfectly is. And let us further understand and accept for ourselves that our best becomes better as we let go of fear and anxiety and acknowledge our wholeness and our oneness with the all that there is. And the all that there is divine spirit in action in our lives right here and right now. And once again, for this, we give our thanks humbly and sincerely. And so it is.
And so it is.
So, Thank you for being with us. Jean will be with you next week. I will be on holiday and for the next 2 weeks, and Reverend Levon will be here with Jean. So enjoy your holiday. Peace, peace, peace.